And welcome back to the channel, and welcome to my 2-year 20,000 mile review, owner's review of this bike, the BMW R1250 GS. Now I'm just going to put a couple of little caveats on that. I haven't actually done 20,000 miles on the bike. I've done, let me just see, 19,748 miles. To be absolutely correct, I've done 19,048 miles on this bike, because this was an ex-demo at Bowker's in Preston when I bought it, and it had done 700 miles, which isn't a lot for a demo bike, is it? So really it's a 19,000 mile review, and actually it's not a 2-year review either. It's a 2-year and 1 month review, because I bought it in December 2020 and it's now January 2023, so I've had it 1 year and 1 month. But there's a very good reason I've done this before it gets to 20,000, and I'll tell you that towards the end of the video. But I just thought it'd be nice to come out, a bit of a ride out. It's a bit of a cold winter's January day, but the roads are clear, well salted up in the Yorkshire Dales at the moment. And I thought I'd tell you what just over 2 years and just under 20,000 miles has been like. What's it been like living with this 1250 GS? Well, just to put my riding into perspective to start with, I ride quite a lot. Any commuting that I do, I do work from home a bit, but I commute as well to East Manchester from Bolton. That view down Wensleydale there, that's nice, isn't it? Even on a grey, miserable January day. It's lovely, that, isn't it? Yeah, so I do commute on this bike maybe 2 or 3 times a week, 50 miles a day. As you're probably aware, I'm an examiner for IAM Road Smart, so I do quite a lot of testing with candidates on this bike. So that tots the miles up. I like to tour on it. Got a little holiday home up in the lakes, so I'm up and down to Penrith quite regularly and on the back roads in between. So the bike is it's not a garage queen, it's used regularly. I like to keep my bike well serviced, so it's always been serviced with BMW. And if we go back to right at the start when I first bought this bike, I'll put a link in the description below to the videos where I was sort of out on it for the first time, and I think I did a 5,000 mile review at some point. I really didn't want a GS. Prior to this bike I had an S1000 XR, which I absolutely loved. It was an scorcher of a bike, I loved it. But during my ownership it had been pretty unreliable. It's had quite a lot of issues. Now BMW had sorted them out under warranty, no problem at all. Again, I'll put a link in the description below so you can see what kind of problems I had with the XR. And that was out of warranty, and I wanted something that was in warranty. I was actually looking for another XR, and I went to go and see what they had in stock, and the salesman threw me the keys to a GS, and I said, I don't want a GS, it's not my kind of thing. And grudgingly I took it out for a test ride, and over a couple of hours I just could not find anything I didn't like about this bike. It was this bike I test rode. And so, like many thousands of people every year, I bought myself a GS. So the spec of this GS is TE spec. This is an R1250 GS TE exclusive. I'm not quite sure what the exclusive was. I think it's just a colour trim type thing. It's mostly black, some grey and yellow stripes on it and stuff. So with the TE spec you get things like Gear Shift Assist Pro, which is the BMW's version of a quick shifter, do clutchless gear changes. Give you a review on that in a bit. You get several riding modes, so you get rain, Road, Dynamic Pro and Enduro Pro. Talk about those. Which ones do I use most frequently and which ones do I not? You get Dynamic ESA, so electronically adjustable suspension. You can adjust the damping levels, 2 levels with a switch on the handlebar here. You can swap between road and dynamic, and that's really noticeable on this bike. Road is quite comfortable, absorbs a lot of the bumps. Put it in dynamic and it does really stiffen the damping up. But the bike also automatically adjusts preload and stuff for if you've got a pillion on or whatever weight's on the bike. It's making those adjustments for you, so there's no faffing about. If you want to take a pillion, for example. What else is it, guys? It's got the TFT dash. That's standard on pretty much most BMW bikes these days. Connectivity with the helmet, your phone, media player in there. It's got a really good electronics package, so you know, wheelie control and traction stability control, cornering ABS, which means you can apparently whack the brakes on in a corner and it'll do its best to bring you to a safe stop. I've not tried that yet. No intention of doing either. And of course I bought the bike some presents over the years as well. I put some crash bars on it because they are a big heavy bike, these, and the risk isn't that you're going to slide down the road at high speed, it's that you're just going to drop it on a garage forecourt, or like I did on Hard Knock Pass just after I bought it. Put my foot on some ice. Whoop. So they're a worthwhile investment if you want to look after your cylinder heads. What else have I put on it? Put some bigger hand guards on it. Put this phone holder here. This is quite good. It plugs into the BMW's sat-nav holder, which came pre-fitted to the bike. Keeps your phone charged. You can use Google Maps. I did at one point make the foolish purchase of BMW's Navigator. Is it the 6, the latest one? Oh, it was just awful. You know, something that cost 500 quid. Yeah, it was terrible. So actually I quite like to just put my phone in there, use that as a nav. Put fitting for a tank bag on it. A nice big Givey Top Box, 56 litre top box. Very useful that for commuting. I can get all my work stuff in there, change your clothes if I need to. Laptop. And all my day-to-day kit as well. A couple of other things. I put a slightly bigger footplate on the side stand, which is really comforting when you stop on soft ground. The side stand doesn't sink in. And I fitted a couple of bits of wire into it. One for a trickle charger if I leave the bike for any length of time. Mounted on trickle charge. And I've got a cable for this heated jacket, for my lovely heated jacket. Game changer for winter riding is a heated jacket. I'm wearing an electric blanket, it's lovely. And of those 19,000 miles that I've ridden on this bike, I have to say I've pretty much enjoyed every single one of them. I still love this bike as much as I did when I bought it just over 2 years ago. I mean, first off, it's such a comfortable place to be. I'm not massively tall, I'm 6 foot tall, I've got quite a short inside leg measurement, but the bike seems to fit me perfectly. Not quite flat footed if I put both my feet down, but it's a perfectly comfortable size for me. There's a real quality about it. The switches feel nice, good quality. These should be backlit though. I think BMW, you know, you get ride on some other bikes and these are backlit at night, and I do ride at night quite a bit. Now alright, when you've had the bike for a while you sort of know where the switches are, muscle memory kicks in, but come on BMW, you could backlight these, couldn't you? That'd be a little improvement, wouldn't it? The engine is just fantastic really. It's got so much low down grunt. I'm trickling along here in third gear at 30, 2000 revs. If I wind it on from there, it pulls so strongly from 2,500 revs all the way up to the red line. It has what BMW calls shift cam. You might know it as VTEC or variable valve timing or whatever. And it's amazing how a big thumper of a twin like this can rev. Alright, it's not a screamer. It's not like my Fireblade engine by any stretch of the imagination, but it's really capable. And it really revs very freely. It's a nice engine, and it's mounted very low down in the frame, horizontally opposed engine, so the centre of gravity is much lower than you think. And what that means, especially at low speeds like this, is the bike is really wieldy. It's lovely. It's so light and easy to just manoeuvre at low speeds. It looks a big lump, but it doesn't feel a big lump as soon as you start moving along on it. Yeah, that pulls, third gear, 30 miles an hour, lovely. Now the gearbox, if you've seen my earlier videos where I was reviewing this bike when it had less miles on it, especially when it was brand new, it has this BMW's Gear Shift Assist Pro, which means you can go up and down the box without using the clutch once you're on the move. In order to change down through the gearbox, the throttle has to be fully closed, and in order to change up through the gearbox, the throttle has to some degree to be open. Just a little bit, but it has to be open. So you've got to have a bit of gas on to change up, and the gas has to be fully closed to change down. So for example here, near side, brakes, the throttle's closed, touch it down one gear, and the bike pretty seamlessly changes down to third gear. It matches the revs, it's pretty smooth. Changing up through the gearbox, bit of gas on there, up to fourth, up to fifth. I'm not touching the clutch, and it taps up nicely. But I have to say, it's not the best on this bike. I borrowed an XR while this was in for a service a few days ago. A new XR which has the same system, and I was reminded just how good it is on that bike, and on anything that's a bit more sporting in intent, something with a bit more of a revvy nature. That gearbox really suits those bikes. But this, it's a GS, you know, the original design of this gearbox, it goes back years. It's quite heavyweight. I wouldn't say agricultural, that's not fair. But what I found with the Gear Shift Assist Pro is that over the first 2,000 or 3,000 miles it needed some time to bed in. When I first got this bike, it was awful. It was clunky, it banged through, it just used to throw you off the back of the bike. With time, and with a bit of bedding in, a bit of running in, and I suppose this is true for all the components in the gearbox, but that just sort of eased off a bit and it got a little bit better. But I still don't use it in the lower gears. I don't use it changing up from first to second or second to third. In fact, I think it's probably true to say I don't really use Gear Shift Assist Pro from third down, first, second and third gear. Fourth, fifth and sixth gears, it's nice, it's smooth. You saw me demonstrating it then. I'm going to take a fourth gear, we'll just roll off the gas, fourth gear, and it's lovely and smooth there. Down to third, yeah, it's okay. But if I start going for second gear now, roll off the gas, oh, it starts to get a bit jerkier, and again, that's a bit lumpy going up from second to third. So, first, second and third, I tend to clutch it through, fourth, fifth and sixth. I will use that Gear Shift Assist Pro sometimes, depending on how I'm feeling. It's one of the things that annoys me about this bike, is that whenever you reach the reserve limit, which is, I think you've still got about 50 miles left in the tank when reserve comes on. But look at that! Your whole dashboard is taken over with this real panic message. Tank reserve limit. Now come on BMW, look where I am, there's no filling stations near here, there's more than enough petrol to get me back, and then you have to physically switch that warning sign off by using this rotating wheel on the handlebars here. So what about issues? Have I had any problems with the bike? Well, early on in my ownership I had an issue with the exhaust valve or the exhaust flap or whatever you want to call it. So the bike has different rider modes, which I'll talk you through in a minute. When you put it in Dynamic Pro, it sort of opens a flap in the exhaust, gives you a louder exhaust note, sounds a bit more sporty. And that was sticking open. It was a really common fault on the 2019 and 2020 GS's. And I took it in and they sort of said, well, we've cleaned it up and we've freed it off, let us know how you get on. And that was only a temporary fix for about a week or two, probably a week I think. And then pretty soon afterwards the same fault came up. And when you get one of these faults, you get that massive message on the dashboard, contact your dealer, and then there's a little yellow triangle that comes up on the dashboard as well. And that stays on all the time, so it bugs you until you go on and get it sorted. So I took it back again. To be fair to BMW, they're always good with the warranty, so they lent me a bike while the bike was in being fixed. They put a whole new exhaust header, slightly newer design, slightly different design on the exhaust flap. And since that was fitted, that problem has never reoccurred on the bike. It's been absolutely fine. And compared with my ownership of the XR, over the time that I've had this bike, I've had virtually no issues with it at all. I've had a couple of punches on the back tyre, but I can't put that down to the bike or the design, can I? I don't know why it's always the back tyre. I'm thinking perhaps a ping a nail or a screw up with the front tyre. My preferred tyre on this bike is the Michelin Road, well, either 5 or 6, it's up to the 6 now. It's a superb sports touring tyre. And loads of grip, especially in the wet, but they wear pretty well as well. So I think I'm on my third set of Michelin Road 6s at the time that I've had this. And the only other issue I've had on the bike was that a few months ago I noticed there was a little bit of corrosion coming up on the swing arm, the rear swing arm. Sort of multifunctional, that it holds the back wheel on, but it also contains the drive shaft. It's a shaft driven motorcycle, so the shaft runs inside that rear swing arm. And at the back end of it, I started to notice it was corroding. Now I think it's an aluminium part, looks like a cast aluminium part. I might be wrong, stand to be corrected on that. But the paint was bubbling up at the back edge on it. So again, I got that checked out when the bike was in for some tyres. I asked the dealers to look at it, sent some pictures off to BMW, and BMW said yes, we'll replace your swing arm. So last week it had a new swing arm fitted on it. I am pretty careful in winter with this bike. I tend to cover it in ACF 50 and make sure we try and keep all the salt off the bike, so it wasn't really anything I'd done. BMW accepted there must have been something wrong with that part and they replaced it. But that's it, that's all I've ever had go wrong with this bike, and that's not tragedy, is it? You know, I mean, even the corrosion, I'd have been probably happy to sort it myself if it was out of warranty. But I've not had any engine issues, I've not had any transmission issues. The electronics have been good. Just over the cold weather, we had that cold snap just before Christmas. One morning I came up to the bike and the battery was a bit weak, and it flashed up a load of warning messages. And then it started, and once it had been running for 10 minutes I turned it off and it cancelled all the warning messages. So I think that was just a natural issue with the battery. Batteries over time deteriorate, don't they? They don't last forever, and they're only small as a bike battery. And I also sort of, you know, I have the heated jacket in winter plugged into the battery. Yeah, riding modes. I'm in road at the moment. The road surface is damp, but it's not raining. There is a rain setting. The first setting on the scroll, there's like a scrolling set of 4 riding modes. The first one is rain. What rain mode does is it sort of winds the throttle response back. It gives you a smoother, more progressive, gentler throttle response. and it makes sure it winds up all the traction control, stability, everything up to maximum, so that they intervene at the earliest point when the roads are a little bit slippery. Could be justified in using that today, but the roads are well salted and they're only damp. It's not raining, there's no standing water, a bit of ice there, a little bit of movement, but apart from that, I'm happy at the moment that we don't need to be in rain mode, because the next step up is road. And again, road, you've still got all your electronic intervention, everything's ready to cut in, but it's got a slightly sharper throttle response than rain, and you get the full power of the engine. And road, I think during the winter months I would suggest that road is my default setting. The next mode up from road, if I press that, is Dynamic Pro. You see that, Dynamic Pro? There's two settings that have Pro in the name, Dynamic Pro and Enduro Pro. And what the Pro basically means is that you can make adjustments to those settings. So in Dynamic Pro you can choose whether your stability and traction control is on or off, or in the mid setting, or whether the wheelie control's on or off, or whatever. But Dynamic Pro also gives you the option of a much sharper throttle response and a louder exhaust, or a flap opening in the exhaust anyway. You can just hear it burbling a little bit more there, can't you? Turn that off now. An Enduro Pro, that's for the off-roaders amongst you. As you're probably aware, I don't really ride off-road. It is something I'd like to explore a bit more, but I don't really ride off-road. But you can turn the ABS off, for example, if you want to lock your back wheel. And instead of going through all the settings, you just scroll into Enduro Pro and it'll immediately call up the settings that you've pre-programmed. A bit like my M2, my car. You've got M1 and M2 buttons on the steering wheel, where you can pre-select what settings you want. It's the same on this bike in any of those Pro modes. So I did say there was a reason I was doing this a little bit early, and that's because it's time for this GS to go. I'm getting a new bike. I sold my car a few months ago, so I'm not running a car at the moment. I'm using the bike a lot. Fancied a change. Although I do still love this GS, you know, I've never gone off it, I've never got bored of it. It's a really good bike. But it's time for a change. Come on, it's new bike. So it's Sunday today. On Thursday I'm picking up my new bike. I'm not going to tell you what I'm getting. Probably won't be much. It probably won't be much of a surprise. But I'm not going to tell you what I'm getting. I'll make a video just after I get the new bike and show you that. But this is probably my last leisure ride out on this bike. So I just thought I'd come out and remind myself just how really good this bike is. I do love it. It's all the bike you ever need. I said before it was a Swiss Army bike. It really is. It's a jack of all trades. And it's pretty much a master of all trades as well. So if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel. You get a notification when my next video goes on. My next video will be my first ride on the new bike. Oh, I can't wait. We all love to get a new bike, don't we? But if I'm being honest, I will be a little bit sad to see this one go. It's properly running now. Any little niggles have been ironed out by the dealers. It's been properly well serviced. It's been ridden reasonably well. It'll make somebody a good bike, this. If you end up buying this one, let me know. Let me know and we'll have a ride out together. So that's it for this video. If you want to hazard a guess to what I'm getting on Thursday, put it in the comments below. see if you're right. Shouldn't be too difficult to guess, to be honest. If you've got one of these, let me know what you think. Do you enjoy owning it as much as I've enjoyed owning this one and using it and riding it regularly? I love this bike, and I will be sad to see it go. But if you haven't already, like I said, subscribe to the channel. You'll get a notification then when the next video is uploaded. Go and have a look at the website as well, ragelocal.com. There's loads more information there about advanced and performance driving and riding, information about the books that I've written, and about how you can get a day's driver or rider coaching with me if you fancy a ride out on some of these roads. But for now, thanks very much for watching. Hope you've enjoyed it, and we'll see you next time.